The rich, dark walls of my father's study felt like they were closing in around me. Everything in the room smelled of power: old books, expensive wood, polished leather. He signed the papers with a quick, sharp motion. The scratch of his expensive pen sounded louder than it should have, like it was dragging across my heart instead of paper. "There," he said, sliding the stack across the desk toward me. "It's done. The full $5 million from the trust fund will go to Teresa." Just like that, I was erased.
Mein Name ist Anna Smith.
I'm 30 years old. And today, my family decided I was no longer one of them. My sister, Teresa, stood by the window, half turned away, trying to hide the smirk playing on her lips. She didn't speak, but the victory in her eyes said enough. My mother sighed from the big leather chair behind me, like she'd practiced this scene in her head. "If only you had followed a more traditional path, Anna. If you had just gone to law school like Teresa. If you had just applied yourself." "I did apply myself," I said softly. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. I already knew what was coming. I watched my father's face tighten in frustration. "Playing around with computers in your little apartment isn't applying yourself," he snapped, standing up so fast his chair scraped back. "Your sister is a partner at Williams & Edwards at 33. And you? You build websites for cafes and dog groomers.
You live in a showbox in the city.
That's not a future. That's a hobby." I could have stopped him right there. I could have told him about the company I'd built from scratch. The financial tech platform quietly gaining attention in Silicon Valley. The platform used smart algorithms to help small investors make smarter decisions, something no one else was doing quite like us. I could have told him about the meeting I had next week, actually tomorrow now, with investors ready to write checks in the tens of millions. The fact that we just closed our Series A and were already being valued at $450 million. But I didn't. I knew it wouldn't matter. My parents only saw success if it came in a tailored suit and a corner office. "At the end of your name, you're right," I said calmly, standing.
I'm not what you wanted ML to be. Teresa deserves the money. Teresa flinched just a little. For a split second, I saw a flash of a sister I used to know.
The one who used to sneak into my room with cookies when I had nightmares. The one who helped me cheat on math homework and told me I was smarter than anyone gave me credit for. "Anna," she started, but I held up a hand.
It's okay, Teresa.
"Really? Congratulations on making partner. You earned it." As I turned toward the door, my mother called after me. "Won't you at least join us for dinner? Your father made reservations at Lou Bernardine to celebrate." I paused at the doorway, taking one last look around the study. Every inch of the walls was covered in framed law degrees, awards, and courtroom photos. All belonged to my parents and Teresa. Not one picture of me, not one token of my achievements. It was like I had never existed. "I have a meeting," I said. "But enjoy the dinner." The car ride back to the city was quiet.
Just the hum of the engine and the sound of my tuk-tuks.
Strangely, I didn't feel angry. I didn't even feel sad. The money wasn't what I was losing. I had plenty of that now, more than I knew what to do with. What hurt was the message. Even after everything I had built, it still wasn't enough for them. When I got back to my apartment, my phone buzzed. "Sophia, CTO, the VC meeting has been moved to tomorrow morning.
Are you ready?"
I stared at the screen for a second, then smiled. More than ready.
Let's change the game.
Because while my family might have written me off, the world hadn't seen the last of me. Not even close. When I finally got back to my apartment, the small, cramped place my father used to mock, I kicked off my heels and headed straight to my little home office. On the wall, large screens were glowing softly, filled with real-time data from our latest test of the UI system. Numbers scrolled quickly across the displays, each one a sign of another successful prediction. Every update was proof that what we had built was working. The computer games my father used to laugh at had turned into something real, something powerful. We had created ATNA, Adaptive Trading Heuristics and Neural Analytics, a system that could forecast stock market movements with a level of accuracy no human trader could ever match. It processed millions of data points in seconds, spotting trends and patterns hidden deep in the noise. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from my sister, Teresa. "Sorry about Dad. You know how he is. The trust fund doesn't matter anyway, right? You're doing fine with your computer stuff." Even her attempt at being supportive felt like another subtle jab.
Computerstuf.
Like it wasn't serious, like it wasn't changing the entire financial world. I stared at her message for a moment before replying simply, "Thanks, Teresa. Enjoy your dinner." I turned my attention back to the pitch deck for tomorrow's meeting with potential investors. The results from our beta testing were incredible. ATNA had outperformed traditional trading algorithms by 40%. Word was already spreading. Some of the biggest banks were quietly reaching out to us, trying to secure early access. Just then, a soft chime echoed through the room.
A video call from Sophia.
Her face appeared on one of the screens, but she didn't look like her usual upbeat self. "Hey," she said. "How'd it go with the family?" I sighed and ran my fingers through my hair. As expected. Dad signed the trust fund over to Teresa. They're probably celebrating at Lou Bernardine right now.
Sophia shook her head.
Their loss. Are you ready to show those VCs what real success looks like tomorrow? I nodded, pulling up another screen filled with fresh test results. "Actually, I've been thinking."
What if we don't take the VC money? Sophia blinked. Wait, what?
"Anna, this is a $21 million investment we're talking about.
Out of a $450 million valuation.
That's the problem," I said, sitting up straighter. "That's small thinking. Look at these results. We're ahead of the curve. We could go public in a year. If we take their money now, we give up control, but if we wait, we can build something massive on our terms." Sophia went silent, absorbing it all. Then, slowly, a grin spread across her face.
You don't want a company. You want an empire.
I smiled back. Not just an empire. I want to build something even my father can't ignore. Something that makes the entire financial world take notice.
Sophia laukhet.
You know he's a corporate lawyer, right? If this tech is that groundbreaking, wouldn't he have heard about it already?
I shook my head.
Sophia, the man still uses a BlackBerry. He thinks coding is what you learn in a weekend class at a community center. He's never even asked what I actually do. And now it's too late. "Well," she said firmly, "his loss. So, what's the plan?"
Cancel tomorrow's pitch.
"No," I said, an idea sparking. "We go. But instead of asking for money, we propose partnerships. We don't need their capital. We need access to their networks. If they open the right doors, we'll grow even faster on our terms." 5 months later, everything had changed. I stood in the center of our brand new office in downtown Manhattan. The space was sleek and modern, full of light from floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the financial district. It was poetic. The very institutions that once dismissed ideas like mine were now eagerly waiting for our tech to launch. Our engineers were heads down, working through the final testing phase of ATNA. The energy in the room buzzed with focus and anticipation. "Anna," Sophia called from across the room. "You need to see this." I walked over, coffee in hand, and looked at her screen. The newest simulation results were in, and they were beyond anything we had imagined. Even in our wildest dreams, we never expected this. ATNA wasn't just predicting market movements anymore. It was recognizing the events that caused those movements before they happened. I leaned in closer to the glowing data on Sophia's screen, my heartbeat quickening. "Is this real?" I asked, squinting to double-check the numbers. Sophia nodded, her eyes practically glowing with excitement. "Triple verified." ATNA picked up patterns from social media posts, breaking news, and subtle shifts in trading behavior. It predicted the Morgan Stanley merger announcement 3 days before it went public. "If this had been live trading," I whispered, "we'd have made billions," Sophia finished, voice filled with awe. I rubbed my temples, trying to absorb the gravity of it. "Did we run this past compliance?" "That's the best part," she said, pulling up another screen with a swipe. "We did. Everything is clean. ATNA doesn't use any insider info. All it does is connect publicly available dots, just way better than any human ever could. Right then, my phone buzzed. It was Teresa. Hey sis, long time. Parents are worried. Dad says your old number doesn't work. Is everything okay? I couldn't help but smile at the irony. Of course, that number didn't work. We had moved out of that tiny apartment months ago. We now operated out of a brand new $55 million office tower just 6 blocks from Wall Street. But in my family's minds, I was still playing with computers in a shoebox apartment. I'm fine, just busy with work, I replied.
Another butz.
This time it was from Jonathan, our head of legal. SEC meeting confirmed for next week. They're interested in your compliance framework. Interested was an understatement. The moment whispers started about our AI-powered trading system, the SEC had reached out, practically begging for a meeting. They wanted to understand ATNA before it made waves in the financial world. And honestly, that was a smart move. Just then, Miss Smith, our receptionist, buzzed through the intercom. Anna, there's a Mr. Williams here to see you. Says he's from Williams and Edwards. My heart jumped.
Williams and Edwards.
That was Teresa's law firm, one of the biggest corporate firms in New York. Send him in, I said, straightening my blazer and mentally preparing myself. Mason Williams himself stepped through the door. Senior partner, polished, silver hair, sharp suit, the kind of man my father would trust instantly. The kind of man who usually ignored people like me. Miss Smith, he greeted me with a handshake. Thank you for making the time. I hope you'll forgive the surprise visit. Of course, I said, gesturing to the chair across from me. Though, I'm curious. How did you even hear about ATNA? He smiled, all charm and poise. Let's just say our clients in the financial world are very curious about your work. They asked us to explore possible partnerships. Does my sister know you're here? I asked with a raised eyebrow. His smile froze just for a second.
Teresa?
No. This is a confidential visit. Though I must admit, I was surprised to learn you're her sister. She's never mentioned you. I gave him a half-smile.
Let me guess.
She never told you she has a sister who plays with computers. He had the grace to look a little embarrassed. She doesn't talk about you much at all, I added, my voice calm. Before the awkward silence could stretch, Sophia popped her head into the room, tablet in hand. Anna, sorry to interrupt, but Goldman Sachs is here for their demo. Williams's expression changed instantly. At the mention of Goldman Sachs, I could almost see him reevaluating everything. My work, my value, even my outfit. I stood. Mr. Williams, I appreciate the visit, but I have another meeting to attend. If your firm is interested in future conversations, feel free to go through our legal team. He stood quickly, smoothing down his blazer. Of course, but Miss Smith, whatever Goldman is offering, we can match it. Williams and Edwards represent half the financial giants in this city. We know people.
We open doors.
I gave a small nod. We'll be in touch. As he walked out, I couldn't help but feel a quiet satisfaction. The same firm that once ignored my existence was now knocking on my door. And not just knocking, they were trying to compete. We weren't just on the radar anymore. We were the radar. And this was only the beginning.
Es I valke trug se door, a strange sense of satisfaction wäschet over me.
It wasn't about money. Mr. Williams had gotten that part wrong. This was about rewriting the rules of the game. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "It's not about the money, Mr. Williams. It's about changing everything." He didn't reply, but I could tell he understood. After he left, Sophia shot me a look that was partly annoyed, partly amused. "You enjoyed that, didn't you?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Maybe just a little," I admitted with a grin. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "How long do you think it'll take him to tell Teresa about all this? Considering her firm manages billions in investments." I shrugged.
10 minutes, tops.
Right on cue, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my sister. "Anna, why didn't you tell me? Mason Williams just walked out of your office looking like he'd seen a ghost. What exactly are you working on? I didn't answer. There would be time for explanations and family drama later. For now, we had more important things to do. We were about to give a live demo to one of the biggest names in finance. The Goldman Sachs team was already in our conference room. 5 high-ranking executives in polished suits, trying hard to hide their excitement. Just getting them here had been a huge win. If we could get Goldman on board, it would open every door in the financial world. I stepped to the front of the room and addressed them confidently. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, what you're about to see will change how markets work forever. But first, I'll need you to sign these NDAs. The morning of our IPO, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the collar of my tailored Chanel suit. Not that my parents would notice. It could have been from any brand, and they wouldn't know the difference. On my desk sat the Wall Street Journal, the front page plastered with our company's headline, ATNA to launch, biggest tech IPO of the year. Estimated valuation, $900 million. My phone had been buzzing non-stop for days. First Teresa, then my mom, and finally even my father. All their calls and messages went unanswered. They'd all be at the IPO ceremony anyway. Invitations had been sent out weeks ago. Yuridi. Sophia appeared in the doorway. She had traded her usual hoodie and jeans for a sharp, professional suit. Born ready, I replied, picking up my presentation folder. How's ATNA running this morning? I asked as we walked out together. Like a dream, she said. Real-time predictions with 98% accuracy. The trading floor is on fire. Everyone knows this is going to shake the entire market. By the time we arrived at the New York Stock Exchange, a crowd had already formed. Reporters stood in lines, cameras flashing, their voices echoing through the morning air. I caught snippets of their commentary, youngest female CEO to ever take a company public.
A new era in trading technology.
ATNA's AI already has contracts with major banks. Inside the exchange, the air was electric. Our entire team was gathered near the podium. Representatives from top banks and financial giants filled the room. In the front row, I spotted my family. My father's face was full of complicated emotions: pride, regret, confusion, and something else. Maybe awe. My mother kept dabbing her eyes, overwhelmed. And Teresa just stared at me, as if seeing her little sister for the very first time.
Anna, my Vater said softly, stepping forward as Ivalket passed.
We had no idea. I looked him in the eye. No, you didn't. Because you never asked. Before he could say anything else, the president of the exchange called me to the stage. The ceremony was about to begin. I stood at the podium, the trading floor going silent as I began. 4 years ago, I was coding in a tiny apartment. People laughed. They said I was wasting my time playing with computers. They couldn't see the bigger picture, but I wasn't playing. I was building the future. I paused, scanning the room, letting the weight of the moment settle. Today, ATNA processes more market data in a single second than Wall Street could analyze in an entire month. We've created something that doesn't just react to the market, it understands it. I looked down at my family. My father's eyes were locked on mine.
I serve it now.
He finally saw me. And this, I finished, is only the beginning. ATNA could predict market movements with almost perfect accuracy. And she did it all while staying within the law and the highest ethical standards. But what truly made her special wasn't just the technology. It was what she represented, the power of believing in your vision, even when no one else does. The IPO ceremony followed tradition: speeches, applause, handshakes, and finally, the ringing of the bell. But the real magic happened when our stock price lit up on the big board. The room held its breath. Then the numbers soared. We had shattered our projected opening. Cheers erupted across the trading floor. People hugged, high-fived, and even cried. At that moment, I wasn't just the CEO of a powerful tech company. I was a founder who had turned a dream into a global force. By launch, my stake in the company was worth over $450 million, more than 100 times the value of the trust fund my father had taken away from me years ago. That didn't matter anymore. I had built something far greater. After the ceremony, my family approached me slowly, almost nervously. Teresa, my older sister, was the first to speak. The calm, polished lawyer was gone. What stood in front of me was just a sister trying to make things right. "Anna, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice shaking. "All this time you tried to explain, but we didn't listen." I gave her a small smile. "Save it," I said gently. "You all saw what you wanted to see." My father cleared his throat. "Princess, about the trust fund, keep it," I interrupted. "Teresa earned it, just like I earned this." I looked around the room at Sophia, our brilliant team, and everyone who had believed in the vision when it was just an idea written in code inside a cramped apartment. "Sometimes," I said quietly, "the best thing someone can do for you is not believe in you. Because proving them wrong makes the win so much sweeter." "But we're family," my mother said softly. "We should have supported you." I nodded, turning back to Sophia and our team. "You're right," I said. "We are family, which is why you're all invited to dinner tonight."
Ivy reserveze private Rum et le Bernardin.
I heard it's the perfect place to celebrate success. My father's face twitched with recognition. He remembered that dinner 5 months ago when he dismissed my vision like it was a fantasy. This time, he managed a small, respectful smile. "We'd be honored," he said. That evening, as expensive wine flowed and laughter filled the room, I looked around the table and thought about how far we'd come. Every night spent writing code while they thought I was just playing with computers. Every meeting they brushed off, every little win that added up to this moment. My phone buzzed under the table. It was a message from Sophia. "Stock closed at double our projected value. You're officially a billionaire." I looked across the room at my father, who was trying, awkwardly but proudly, to explain to his country club friends how his disappointing daughter had just built an empire right under his nose. And that's when I realized something important. Success isn't about proving other people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Teresa pulled me aside, her tone different now.
Humble, sincere.
"Anna," she said, "I need to tell you something. After Mason Williams left your office that day, I started digging. I looked into everything I could find about ATNA. I even started buying stock in every company that partnered with your tech." "You believed in me?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "I did," she said. "Even if I didn't say it. I made enough to pay back the trust fund 10 times over." "Good," I smiled. "Because I'm going to need a lawyer I can trust for our next expansion phase. Someone who understands both tech and family." Her eyes widened. "Wait, are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a chance to be part of something bigger than both of us," I said. "So, what do you say, sis? Ready to play with computers?" The next morning, I walked into the newly renamed ATNA Tower. Our logo gleamed at the top of the skyscraper. I passed a young intern sitting in the lobby, typing code during her break. She looked so focused, so full of purpose. She reminded me of myself at the start, back when everyone thought I was just wasting time. "Keep at it," I said, stopping beside her. "Some of the biggest success stories begin in the smallest apartments." She looked up, and recognition sparked in her eyes.
"Miss Smith, I read all about you.
How you built ATNA from scratch. My parents think I'm crazy for choosing programming over law school." I smiled and nodded. That's what mine thought too. Then I walked away, knowing her story was just beginning, just like mine once did. You have a vision. I'll help bring it to life. Hold on to that dream. Remember, the people who doubt you today will be the ones reading your story tomorrow. As I rode the elevator up to my office, I couldn't stop thinking about legacy. Not the kind my father tried to hand me, but the kind you build on your own, bit by bit, line by line, choice by choice. ATNA wasn't just changing how money moves. She was showing the world that success doesn't always wear a suit or follow the rules. Sometimes, the most powerful legacy isn't something passed down. It's something you build from the ground up.